The Campaign, movie review. So this is a 2012 comedy. It's a movie that at least attempts to be a political satire, starring Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis. There's not a lot of deep political satire in this movie. Despite one candidate running as a Republican and one candidate running as a Democrat, there's no attempt to make any sort of partisan political humor. What this movie does seek to satirize is, one, how political campaigns are completely controlled by big money, and two, because political campaigns are completely controlled by big money, the campaigns are not about issues anymore, but instead about which candidate has the more likable personality. I think both of these presuppositions are true as far as they go, but the question is whether the movie does an intelligent job of satirizing this. And it does not. The plot makes absolutely no sense and is an insult to the intelligence of the viewer. The plot, such as it is. Will Ferrell's character is a long-standing senator who gets caught in a telephone answering machine sex scandal. The big money that supports his campaign decides he's finished politically, even though it later becomes clear that in the world of this movie, sex scandals do not hurt a politician's credibility at all. So the big money decides to put all their money into creating a rival candidate who's played by Zach Galifianakis. Zach Galifianakis' character is a director of local tourism and has a personality which is completely unsuited to politics. Now, the movie gets a lot of laughs out of playing up Zach Galifianakis' character as a political fish out of water. But plot-wise, it makes no sense. Surely there must have been somebody else in the state they could have found who would have made a more suitable candidate. Then, after putting lots of money into Zach Galifianakis' campaign, only when he is about to win the election do the evil businessmen finally reveal what they want out of him. They want him to sell his district to China and create Chinese-style sweatshops inside his district. Now, this makes no sense for a couple of reasons. One, I'm relatively sure that a congressman can't sell his district to China. I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about this, but a congressman, a national congressman, is elected by his district to represent their opinions on national issues. In other words, a congressman elected by his district can help to pass national laws, which may influence his district, but he doesn't have any dictatorial power over his district itself. He doesn't really have any power over the district itself. That's all controlled by the state and local politicians. But secondly, what kind of sense does it make for the evil capitalists to pour all this money into Zach Galifianakis' campaign without even bothering to check first if he is willing to do their evil bidding? If big money were really this stupid, it would be a non-issue. So, then the big money goes back to supporting Will Ferrell's character, which of course begs the question, why didn't they just do that all along in the first place? Now, I know. It's supposed to be just a dumb comedy, and it's pointless to try and nitpick the plot like this, because the plot is not there for the plot. The plot is just there as a setup for the jokes. But I couldn't help myself. I couldn't look past all this when I was watching the movie, and I suspect a lot of other people may feel the same. It just, the logical problems just jump out at you, and it's very hard to ignore. Nor do I believe it's a law of nature that all comedies must have nonsensical plots. I think superior comedies have a storyline that can get you interested even as they're giving you laughs along the way. this movie is obviously not a superior comedy in that regard. All that being said, though, the good news is that despite the plot not making any sense, this is a really fun movie to watch. There are a lot of scenes in this movie which work comedically, and there are a lot of very funny parts, and I laughed a lot as I was watching it. You have to be willing to forgive the stupid plot, but once you do that, it's great fun. Now, Will Ferrell, I guess this is ancient history now, but you recall back in the early 2000s, he was famous for doing an impersonation of George W. Bush, which I think he started out on Saturday Night Live, and then he continued afterwards. And what was the name of his one-man show? You're Welcome, America, or something like that, where he played George Bush, kind of giving one final speech. So Will Ferrell, I thought, did a very good job of capturing the essence of George W. Bush. George W. Bush, you got the sense that he had been in politics for a little bit too long, with maybe not quite the brains to handle it. So he had gotten into the habit of saying these very dumb statements, but he delivered them with such conviction because he was so used to making political speeches in front of crowds. So he was constantly saying very dumb things as if they were incredibly profound. And Will Ferrell, I think, captured that perfectly in his caricature of George W. Bush. And he plays a similar character here, somebody who says ridiculous things with a lot of conviction. He becomes so good, his character becomes so good at playing the crowds that he can get them to cheer for just about anything if he says it right. At one point he tells his campaign manager, "America, freedom, and Jesus. I don't know what it means, but the people sure love it when I say it." You get the sense that Will Ferrell's character in this movie, somewhere along the line, got separated from reality. And now he doesn't understand how ridiculous he sounds to other people. And he acts like it's other people's fault for not taking his ridiculous statements as seriously as he does. And when he's in a hole, a rhetorical hole, he just keeps digging deeper and deeper. For example, when he accidentally dials the wrong number and leaves an obscene phone message on the answering machine of what turns out to be a wrong number, and what in fact turns out to be a very deeply religious conservative family, Will Ferrell's character attempts to defend himself like this. He says, "We can't have this. It's a behavior that has to stop." And then a newspaper reporter says, "But Congressman, you made the call." And Will Ferrell says, "I have made in my lifetime probably over 100,000 phone calls, of which I could say maybe 1% have been inappropriate." What is that, 1,000 phone calls? And his campaign manager says, "That is exactly 1,000. And Will Ferrell says, 1,000 phone calls have been rude, inappropriate, sexually explicit. Phone calls I wish I could take back, but that's only 1,000 out of 100,000. I'll take those odds any day of the week." Sorry, I'm not doing it justice, but if you can see Will Ferrell delivering these lines with such conviction, like it's everybody else's fault for not understanding the logic of this, you'll see what carries this movie. It's an exaggeration, but like all good comedies, you get the feeling that it's not exaggerating by that much. It's maybe 1 or 2 steps removed from the way politicians actually talk. And that, in my opinion, is what makes it so funny. Sometimes, though, politicians do such stupid things like that it's difficult for even the satire to keep up. Like Anthony Weiner and the photoing his dick and sending it to people controversy, the infamous sexting controversy, which the movie mocks here, although there's really not that much to satirize. All you can really do is replay what actually happened in real life, with Will Ferrell putting his mock serious face over the ridiculous events. So Will Ferrell is bragging to his campaign manager about how he just tweeted his mistress a picture of his genitalia. Of course, he acts like there's nothing wrong with that. And then he said to his campaign manager, "Oh, I CC'd you a copy." And his campaign manager, of course, is protesting that he doesn't want a copy of it. It's funny. Also, the personal attacks between the two candidates also seems at times like it's an exaggerated version of real life, but maybe only one or two steps removed from real life elections. Until it finally reaches ridiculous proportions in this movie, culminating with Will Ferrell's plan to have sex with his opponent's wife, film the act, and then make it into a campaign ad and put it on TV. I thought the conversation between Will Ferrell and his campaign manager, where his campaign manager was trying to talk him out of the plan, was particularly funny. It's a high point in this movie. There are also some brief but funny cameos by real-life news anchors reporting on the bizarre twists of the campaign. It's a small moment, but I liked Joe Scarborough's surprised reaction to the news that Will Ferrell had gotten a bump in the polls from having sex with his opponent's wife on TV. To sum up, the movie may not be very intelligent political comedy, but if you're in a silly mood, it's worth watching for the laughs, even if the plot doesn't make any sense.